So the project today will be totally scrapping my existing fuel system from the pump rearward. After the whole sludge thing, I don't really feel like pulling out an old 12-gallon tank and cleaning it out and resealing it and everything else involved. So Summit came through with overnight shipping, which apparently they didn't charge me for. So I guess if you upgrade your shipping and they know you're going to get it next day anyway, no extra charge, which is very cool on their part. Only thing I'd wish I had known before I ordered everything was that pretty much everything in this box, except maybe the hose, I don't know, is made in China. I think I would have rather picked up US made stuff. So my first dive into the AN fitting world, I guess I'll have to check out Aeroquip and see who else makes some fittings that are US sourced. And if anybody on here is aware of a brand, just comment below and let me know, because I'm more than willing to buy US made for many reasons. So anyway, this is what I'll be working with today. A lot of dollars in this little box. I think probably more than the fuel cell itself, which actually was made in the US. So I'll get this out of the way and give you guys an unboxing view of my fuel cell. So here comes the unboxing of a Rhodes Race Cars 20-gallon aluminum fuel cell. So the box actually showed up in pretty decent shape, actually better shape than my hood scoop box did. So let's cut it open, see what we have. So far the packing looks pretty solid. Bit of blow-in foam, which may make me regret opening this up inside of my Jeep, but I don't know. We'll wait and see. Yeah, this thing's in here pretty solid. Yeah, cut for a minute and grab my trash can so I can start throwing some of this stuff away. Alright, ended up cutting some box corners here. It's going to make it a lot easier to get this thing out. And at this point the plastic is pretty much glued to that blow-in foam. We got some Rhodes Race Cars stickers. Basic warning that gasoline is highly flammable, which I believe. I ordered the flat bottom tank. So we've got fuel sender, vent line, return line, of course fill, and then the pickups are at the bottom, which for now I'll use one. Eventually I'm going to cap these off, drill somewhere and drop in one of Holley's Dynamats to use for my fuel pickup. So may do that closer to the time I go to fuel injected. But for now, I'd say this thing looks pretty sharp. It actually comes with a pressure check for leaks sticker on it. So assuming it was pressure checked, it should be solid and good to go. So I guess for now, get ready to start getting this thing in the trunk. Alright, the sun's bright enough. I'm actually going to try some inside the cell footage, get an idea of what it looks like inside. Should be the pickups. Opposite side. back on. Pull this out before I drop it in there. Well, it didn't take long to hit the first hang-ups here. So, for one, I was assuming the pickups were on the long side, not the short side. But you can see, as it says at the moment, not the case. Turning it the other direction, I have to be able to fit the return line and vent line fittings under the prop rods for the deck lid. So that's going to be a problem. My cutoff switch mount location shaves off a lot of space, so I need to try and shift the whole thing leftward, which that I'd kind of anticipated. Actually, if it had been the other direction, I would have had a few more inches right in here to clear, so it wouldn't have been quite as big of a deal. And I hadn't really planned on cutting down my trunk floor today, so I'm going to try and make this fit in here as best as possible, and if I can do it, I'll share with you all how. Later on, when I mini tub the thing, right, the trunk floor will probably go away anyway, and I'll refit the thing then, or actually put in a full FIA rated cell at that time, probably with a little larger capacity than 20 gallons. But for now, this is what we're working with. So I'm gonna kill the camera while I do some maneuvering. By the way, even getting this thing in the trunk with the notchback with the narrow trunk lid does require use of the spare tire well. Without that, there's no way this would go in here. It might if you pulled off the trunk catch and you don't have a cutoff, then you could probably get it in here sideways, right? Or what I assumed is sideways. But anyway, I'm gonna kill the camera here, and we'll come back in, well, whenever I get things sorted out. So hopefully it's like 10-15 minutes. Reality will probably be an hour or so. Hopefully it's not going to take like 2 or 3 with a lot of sweating and beating and swearing off camera. So I'll be back. All right, first initial plan here. I get up under here and see how close this fitment is. This is with the tank. So if I raise it up a bit, get a little bit more space. So what I'm going to attempt to do is to pull one of the trunk lid support rods, the lowest one to begin with, and free up a little space to twist this and scoot it under there. After I've done that, I'm going to try and twist the tank back into the proper orientation and see if I can then clear the latch and cut off. And if I can, that may become the solution. But you know, if it doesn't, I'll be back to report. Why not? So wish me luck. Okay, change of plans. Got one side unhooked, the thing springs down super quick, and working it down out of here a little more difficult than I had planned. Meaning I can't do it with my fingers. More clearance under the center line of this, so you can see where this side of the tank has a bit more space. Right here, right? Fingers under, pry it up. On the edge, I was able to pry this one up and get the initial fitting under, but that other rod is not going anywhere. So I'm going to try and spin the tank around, which means taking it completely back out of the trunk, getting it completely back down in here, and then hopefully with that move there'll be plenty of space right there to work all of this underneath, right? And then it'll be a matter of probably getting a you know, some type of damper to put under those rods. I'll probably do is just slit some fuel line lengthways or use some of my braided loom to slip over those, so wherever they rub on here, it's you know, not grinding through it, and try and find something that does not cause static electricity buildup. And one of the other things they actually mention in the instructions too is making sure you ground the tank. So again, dealing with gasoline, I'll make sure I do every last bit of that. So here goes trial 2 on getting this in here without having to do any cutting, hammering, or otherwise destructive and repair work today. Okay, I am back. Actually, just a couple minutes later. That worked well, right? Still have the support rods. You can see it rubs on the corner, which is something that'll have to be dealt with. Running my vent line, I can probably do from inside the car for the moment, especially considering before I can run this at the track, I'll have to seal all that off anyway. And next thing I want to check is make sure I have room to actually get the cap on with no problem. So that's good. At the moment, I took some scrap aluminum bar stock I had, which you can see is just barely long enough to support this. And this is probably what I'll be using in lieu of running an entire piece of sheet metal to support the underside. I'll just throw 3 or 4 of these underneath. I'll have to go buy some more and cut some, but easily done. So next concern, will the trunk lid close? So we'll find out looking at where the latch catches, right, compared to how the latch is set up. This would be the biggest interference, I believe, right here. So we'll lower the thing down carefully and see what happens. Like a champ. You ever like it when you have one of those days where things actually seem to go halfway right? Working on this kind of stuff? Because I know I do. And with that other tank rod undone, you can see this doesn't have a lot of lift to it until it's actually up. But at this point, I think I'm going to dig out the mounting straps and try and see what's involved with those and see if we can get those in here. So, because I didn't feel like dragging out my bender today, which if anybody needs one, I've got one from Swag Off-Road. Thing's incredible, right? Mounted up on a Harbor Freight press, but didn't feel like doing all that measuring today. I wanted it to be a simple install, so I actually ordered the mounting kit that is supposed to go with this very tank. So we'll get this thing out of the box, see how it looks, trial fit up in there. And then it'll be time to cut some aluminum bar stock for under the tank supports, get those mounted, and then yank the factory tank and move along. Okay, I've got the box cut open, so let's see what we have. Looks like some plasma cut aluminum strips. Bit thinner than what I use for my bar stock for things like this. I think those are for under the tank. Then it looks like for over the tank. We've got the pre-bent with bolt points, right? Something matching up here. And it does come with bolts, with washers, with lock nuts. So pretty much exactly what I would have built on my own without being able to plasma cut. So, and the bending, right, I would have had to take the measurements and do all of that as well. I'll save that for when I cut the floor out. For now, this looks like a pretty solid mount kit, so I'll start getting it squared away in there and sorted out and see how this goes. What I'm guessing is going to have to happen is 2 of these mounts are going to go on the front up under the deck lid and go through the floor. And for the rear mount points, I am more than likely going to have to make sure I measure and fit one of these pieces of flat bar under this tank in a way that I can mount them to it to keep everything solid in there. And then at some point I may come back and fit another one that goes across the tank the opposite direction and bolts down to the floor as well, just to make sure every side has some kind of support. So anyway, I'll start getting this under there, show you what it looks like after. Okay, so after getting this underneath here, you can see that's going to add a little extra bit of height, and more importantly, it's going to add a little bit of extra height right there, which is going to hit that lower rod. So after thinking about it for a bit, you can see over here it clears perfectly fine, right? You know, I thought maybe, well, I twist the tank back sideways, decided no, I really want to keep the sumps at the rear, especially after all the stuff I've gone through with fueling problems for the last month every time I've tried to go out and enjoy this. So given that the tank, or the trunk lid, does stay up on its own with that one tension rod more or less removed once it's up, I'm going to try and go ahead and pull that rod to free up the space, and then see if with the space freed I can get this under there with plenty of clearance. And then for the rear, I will end up having to put a strap probably at the rear, get a wider piece to bring down and let this bolt to. Otherwise, you know, it's just not going to work out well. So, and when I'm done, I do want to keep all the rub points to an absolute minimum, or keep them non-existent if at all possible. Only one I'm really worried about sits right there. So I'll do some rearranging and then come back. So here we go. One strut totally removed, or one of the rods, and this is what you get. One will not hold it up. So if you ever wondered, now you know. So next option here, what I'm kind of thinking I may end up doing is taking both of those rods out, since eventually there's a chance with the mini tubs they get lost in the works anyway. I think what I'm going to do is run just a hydraulic strut from the trunk floor somewhere here to somewhere right around here, to give it basically just, you know, support when it's open, and then let it close easily and be pushed closed, and call that good. I think that'll maybe a decent solution for not a tremendous amount of extra that I plan on not spending. So be off to the local auto parts stores here though to see if besides finding the strut, I can actually find the little mount points for them to attach to. So if I can find those, I think that's my solution. Otherwise, you know, back to the drawing board, maybe back to just flat out keeping these rods in place for now, but we'll find out one way or the other. I need to get this done today. Okay, we're here past 3 p.m. at this point. The strut idea, great idea, but not with the high pressure struts they offer locally. I couldn't even get one to begin to budge, and I pinned it against the lower part of the trunk and here on the hinge, right? I mean, it was flexing the whole trunk deck lid without giving a tiny bit. So didn't have any that were really what I would consider weak. So at this point, I put the rods back in. I have not pulled this one back up and locked it in place yet. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing under here, get the mounting straps in place on each side, right? And then from the rear, start putting the 1 1/4, or is it 8? No, it's 1 1/4 bar stock under here to cinch everything up. And then I'll have an extra one for the rear just to have a mounting point for the hold down brackets. Is I'll have one that'll go through here, have the flat bar that runs from front to rear. So it's going to be a matter of basically get everything, get the tank in, get the bracketry on top, because that'll be the next hardest piece to get in, and then I'll have a little more room and leverage to get these underneath and slid forward to where they'll hold in place. Right, probably just use a couple of self-tapping screws to get them in, and then at some point take those out, and when I got a helper available, go ahead and actually run a through bolt through with some lock nuts to hold everything in place. So that'll give me a little bit of extra room under here for storage, be more than enough support for 20 gallons of fuel. And you know, then someday when I get around to redoing the entire floor, I'll get a proper sunk in mounting put in, probably with a sheet metal cover over it, and if possible, possibly even do one where I have a driver's side fuel fill, right? Relocate the fuel door from the passenger side to the driver's side to get it a little more in line with modern. So anyway, I'm gonna clear this out and not film my struggles here, and I'll bring it back when everything's sitting in place. Hopefully here within the hour. Okay, so I changed my mind. Rather than not show you how I'm putting this in, for anybody who it might possibly benefit, the welded in bungs are a little bit too close to the edge, particularly the one on this side, to keep the strap from not hanging over the edge here. So I decided to put them on the inside of the welds, which means they're going down first. Okay, got the tank in, got the top straps on each side, get the first cross strap in. So with the front cross brace in, it starts putting a lot of pressure on this. So, but I can still lift the rear of the tank up. So I'm going to get 2 more braces in across the bottom just for support, and then I'll cut another one to do just as the mounting point for the rear to anchor everything in place. And then I should be ready to bolt this all down, yank the factory tank out, and start getting the rest of the fuel system in. Next bit of the unforeseen. So getting the rear strapped in place with an extra strap to bolt them down on, since it's unsupported across the spare tire well, means that both pickup points are directly in line with the crossbar that's there for support. So luckily, or hopefully, these are -8 outlets, and I have a -8 to -6 reducer, and then multiple options for the -6 to hose connection. So if nothing else, I can do a 90 off to the right or left towards the sides of the car, and then roll it down under the tank. But I think going at a 90-degree downward is not going to happen. So anyway, just something else to expect to run into. If it helps somebody else, now you know. Run into another little hidden issue here. When using the 8N to 6N adapter, it leaves absolutely no room to get the fitting on. So I'm going to end up taking this strap loose, which is the one that actually fixes it in place, slip the whole thing forward probably a couple more inches. As long as I got room to get a fuel nozzle in here, then I'm still good to go. So I'm going to try and just give myself a little more room and a lot less frustration trying to deal with those 2 points. So just to kind of keep everybody up to speed on what's going on here, all I have left to do after this, I have 3 support straps in place. Again, that's a 1/4 by 1 inch. Then I've got to drill my holes up front for these 2 mounts, and then get one of my kids to come out and, you know, play the inside the car, outside the car help game. So my son's already volunteered, so he'll help. He's got another Fox Body sitting over here a few steps away that I gave him, so teach him you know, things he gets to deal with in the future if he goes this route. Okay, with a few inches more forward, I have plenty of room in the back to work. You can fit my hands in here comfortably, right? And if I had to, I could even get a wrench under here to get on this 1/2 inch nut or bolt head behind this to work on it, or definitely get a flexible ratchet head under there and on it. So all that's left on the tank itself is to get one of my kids to come out and hit this with the impact gun on the top side while I hold the nut on the bottom. So as far as fuel adding, it's a bit under about half, but every fuel pump combination shouldn't have a problem getting into that. The only thing I worry about is these little big round knob things they have on the end now that you have to like smash on something or they won't even begin to dispense fuel. So the vent hose, you can see I've got that up on there with the adapter. That's ran over the top of the axle through an existing grommet. Just carefully cut out the inside of the grommet head, pop the grommet back in, and the hose through. Should, you know, last for quite some time. Everything else is bolted down, so I'm going to go under the car and drill some mounting spots for my fuel pump that I'm putting in, and drill a pilot hole for a bulkhead fitting so I know where to place it. And once that's done, I'll cut the wiring over, get everything mounted up, and should be able to get this finished up today. If not, I'll come out in the morning, work on it a few hours when I'm not quite as drained from a long, warmer than normal weekend. So either way, we'll be back on the road this week, and I'm ready to go get some good burnout footage and rolling burnout footage once it does. So looking forward to that. So it's the morning of day 2, and I've just finished getting everything done. All the hoses ran, every connection double checked on tightness. We're down to 90-degree ends. I'm gonna have to order one of those. So to make up for the space, I just shifted from the left to the right on the tank. Ended up having to use the 45-degree here for now, so shouldn't really cause a problem. 100 micron inline filter, pre-filter in the trunk, so that should be easier to change if the time ever comes it's needed. And then underneath, here's what was feeding the 408. Little Edelbrock micro pump, which early on was, for all purposes, seemed to be doing pretty well, right? So, and what we have feeding everything now is the Summit pump, right? You can see the bulkhead fitting from the right to the left of the fuel sender and where the power wires plumb through. Then ended up needing to get a 90 to have enough of the braided line, since the inlet and outlet side are, you know, weren't working in my favor. Of course, Lowe's, the one fitting they were out of was the true 3/8 to 3/8 female 90, so ended up having to buy a union fitting and then the 90 female, but it's in. So just test ran the pump, ran fine. So last thing to do is get this old tank out, which is beat up, right, dented. You can see all the marks on what little bit of factory protection it had, where the later Foxes had the whole like lower tank covered. This has like this tiny little bit right behind the differential, and other than that, nothing. And on the outside edges where the straps aren't ran, there's nothing. So, but thing should be fairly empty. I ran the pump last night, this one, and disconnected up front and ran until it wouldn't pump anymore. So ended up getting, I think, a little over 2 gallons, maybe 3 gallons out of it, out of a total of about 11 or 12. And it actually did come out clean. So this little filter I popped in hasn't clogged up yet, I don't think, and was getting all the grime and goo out. So anyway, I'm going to yank the tank here and be done with it, then be ready to go for a little test spin. Just finished getting the fuel tank out, which frees up a lot of space under here. So that's done. I've got some footage from my phone from the inside of the tank, and it was quite nasty. So everything's cinched down. Last thing to do is to go ahead and add some fuel, run the pump, check for leaks, shut it all down, check for drips, fire it up and go fill this tank up, then go for a little run, see how it does. So that'll be up next, well, after I show you guys the tank. This is how the tank came out. Right, pretty much normal Fox Body tank. Vent hose on the top, which was ran basically to the cutoff line. Right, the pickup point runs under here along with the fuel sender, and then the pickup tube itself goes down to about the middle of the tank. And I think here's one of the reasons why this tank is the 12 gallons instead of the 15. If we look at this space here, I believe on a fuel injected Fox, maybe even on 80, 81, I don't know, or 82, it doesn't have the big cutout here for whatever reason. So that's all bashed in and consumes quite a bit of volume. But anyway, it's out. If anybody wants to buy a little Edelbrock mini pump, let me know. Here we go. 38 gallons per hour, 4 to 7 psi. So I guarantee it'll do that. And I'll even throw in a slightly used filter, and after you've seen what the inside of the tank looks like, you'd probably want to replace that anyway. But I don't think this will get anything inside, maybe a little bit. You can kind of see the red sludge down there. The phone picks it up a little clearer. So anyway, time to go fuel this thing up, go see what it'll do. And here's my personal fuel transfer solution. Right, it's the Harbor Freight Special Double D battery. Set the camera down here if I can find a place to set it. So I wasn't about to attempt to pour what I'd pumped out into this 5-gallon jug. With it up under here and one of those fixed position spout things they put on everything now, seemed like a big mess waiting to happen. So I grabbed the pump I use when I'm transferring into my boat. So Harbor Freight, I think it was like $7 or $8. Things work great. So here we go. Thing flows more fuel than that little Earl fuel filter does with a clogged filter. Not seeing any drips or leaks anywhere so far. All right, everything looks nice and dry. And again, this is all the fuel that was left in the tank that I could physically get the pump out. So maybe 3 gallons. It's enough to set the Holley dash, though. See if the fuel sender is picking up. They have very little fuel left. So I'll fire the pump up here, then said check for leaks, shut it off, check for some drips, and we're set. One last view from the other side now that I have the rear end jack kind of back up into position. It's enough for it, just unseated it off the jack stand on the driver's side. Passenger side still touching, but see, it's a tight squeeze, but it fits. But I'm definitely going to be doing some rechecking on this fairly frequently. And I may go ahead and get a wrench on here, because I know that's got a little more twist to it. See if I can point that a little more upright instead of angled like that. And after that, just go for a drive, come back, check it out, see how everything looks. But so far, I think it's going to work. So here in a minute, we'll be off to get some fuel. Yeah, I went ahead and twisted that to almost 90 vertical, and I feel better about the fit. Stay still fairly close, but even under full press, I don't think it's going to have a problem clearing the cover. And this has a solid upper and lowers, right? So it's not going to deflect a whole lot. Maybe a different story when I get the panhard bar in here. I don't know. We'll wait and see then. I say that I think at some point there's a whole lot of space right in here. Just set up an air motive pump and then just bring the braided line farther back. So we'll wait and see if this gets us through to then though.